If you're one of the millions who's sick of sugar-coated celebrity interviews and media-trained apologies, then buckle up, because what you're about to witness isn't a press tour, it's a reckoning. Meghan Markle walked onto the set of The View expecting balls. Instead, she got Joy Behar and the fireworks that followed. They left scars on more than just reputations. Hey there, before we dive into the most shocking TV moment of the year, make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share this with someone who still believes daytime TV is predictable, because after this, nothing will ever feel safe again. It started like any other episode. A warm morning, studio lights buzzing, A-list guests lining up backstage. But today, there was a different energy in the air. Meghan Markle had requested to appear. This wasn't a producer begging for a royal booking. It was Meghan reaching out, claiming she had urgent truths to clear. For Joy Behar, that was a red flag wrapped in a velvet glove. As Meghan sat down, her polished look shimmered under the lights. She gave a flawless smile. Calm, confident. The kind of calm that comes from knowing you've rehearsed every answer. She was here to reclaim the narrative. And she thought The View would be her stage to do it. But Joy Behar, she wasn't just another host. She was a journalistic bloodhound with decades of sharp instincts and sharper questions. So, Meghan, Joy, began, leaning forward, eyes gleaming with anticipation. What brings you to our cozy little circus today? Meghan matched her tone with effortless charm. I wanted to speak to a platform that values strong women. I felt this was the right space to be heard, unfiltered. Joy smirked. Unfiltered. Oh, we can do unfiltered. What followed was a calm before the storm. Meghan spoke passionately about her women's initiative, about silenced voices, about the pain she'd endured. It was eloquent, it was moving, but for Joy, it was also strategic. And then came the pivot. Speaking your truth, Joy repeated. Meghan's phrase slowly. That's powerful. But help me understand something. When you spoke with Oprah, weren't some of those truths later adjusted by your team? The temperature dropped, the air changed. Meghan's smile faltered for just a moment. But everyone noticed. Meghan defended herself, saying her lived experience had been misinterpreted, that the media twisted her words, that the palace ran a smear campaign. But Joy didn't blink. She leaned in deeper. And what about your former staffers? The bullying reports. Were they part of the smear campaign too? Or do their truths not matter? The silence in the studio was suffocating. Meghan's posture stiffened. She pushed back, hard, accusing Joy of amplifying palace propaganda, of perpetuating a culture that silences women like her. Joy's face didn't flinch. Meghan, you're not being silenced. You're sitting on national television with a global microphone. So tell me, exactly who is silencing you right now? What came next wasn't a conversation. It was a battlefield. And the audience, they weren't just watching. They were witnesses to a demolition. Meghan's voice, still calm on the surface, began to carry a sharper edge. Joy, I expected better. I came here in good faith. I wanted to talk about lifting women up, and instead, I'm being dragged down by gossip and hearsay. Joy's eyes narrowed. Gossip. Meghan, these were workplace complaints, official reports, filed by multiple people. The audience shifted. The tension was thick, palpable. Those reports, Meghan countered, were never substantiated. They were leaked. At a strategic moment, to undermine me, they were part of an orchestrated smear campaign by the very institution I was trying to reform. Joy leaned back, her hands folded, but her expression unreadable. Maybe? Or maybe you're dodging accountability. Meghan bristled. Excuse me, you want to empower women, Meghan? Then start by acknowledging that accountability applies to everyone, including you, especially you. It was the moment Meghan's media training cracked. She leaned in, eyes flashing. You're twisting this. This entire segment has been a setup. I came here to talk about solutions. You want to talk about headlines? No. I want to talk about truth, Joy said flatly. Yours, theirs. All of it. The camera zoomed in on Meghan's face. The tension behind her smile was now undeniable. Her hands clenched in her lap. Her voice wavered. This is exactly why women stay silent. Because of attacks like this, Joy didn't budge. This isn't an attack. This is journalism. At this point, the other hosts were frozen. Whoopi glanced around, silently debating whether to intervene. But even she knew this was Joy's moment, and Meghan's trial by fire. Meghan's defenses gave way to frustration. "You don't know what I've been through. You don't know the pressure of having the entire world dissect your every move." "You're right," Joy said, her voice suddenly quiet. "But I know what accountability looks like. And it doesn't look like dodging every hard question with a story about how hard your life is." Boom. Wasn't just a reply, it was a line drawn in the sand. Meghan sat frozen, not physically restrained, but trapped by expectations, by reputation, by every camera that zoomed in as her perfectly sculpted image began to crack. But something else was happening now. Not just confrontation, consequence. Because as the lights burned overhead and Joy's words still echoed in the silent air, the court of public opinion was already convening. And for Meghan, the verdict was arriving in real time. She shifted in her seat, but it didn't help. She adjusted her jacket. A subconscious attempt to reassert control, but nothing could hide the fact that her armor had already shattered across from her. Joy Behar didn't need to speak. Not yet. She'd already said enough to expose the imbalance. And now, Meghan was feeling it. Fully, backstage, producers whispered furiously into headsets. Phone screens were lighting up with tweets, hashtags already trending. Hashtag Meghan on the View was taking over timelines with every passing second. Some defended her, others mocked her, but no one was looking away, and on set, the tension began to shift. No longer just a verbal exchange, this was now emotional survival. Meghan took a breath and turned, not to Joy, but to the co-hosts who had mostly stayed silent during the storm. "I came here to talk about my work," she said, softer now, almost pleading, not to be interrogated. Whoopi folded her arms. Her expression was neutral, but her voice wasn't. "We hear you, Meghan, but this is The View, not a press release." Meghan blinked. That hurt. You could see it. Sarah N. leaned in gently, trying to soften the moment without undermining it. "Maybe we need to just take a beat. I think everyone's feeling this. But, Joy," she didn't blink, didn't look away, didn't soften. "No," she said plainly, "because this is exactly the moment where most people stop. Right when it gets real." Her words sliced through the studio like cold wind. "Every time someone powerful gets uncomfortable, we pivot, we edit, we protect. Not today." Meghan's lips trembled as she tried to regain control. "You're calling me powerful like it's a bad thing?" she said, the tremor in her voice betraying the cracks. "Like being a woman with a platform is something that deserves punishment." Joy shook her head slowly. "No, Meghan. I'm saying when you have power, real power, you don't get to be above questions. You want the spotlight, then stand in it." It wasn't anger in her voice anymore. It was truth, and truth, when spoken plainly, has a way of echoing louder than any accusation. Meghan exhaled, sharp, shaky. Her fingers curled around the edges of the armrest, as if grounding herself. "I've taken so much abuse, you don't know what it's like to be smeared globally. Every day, I'm painted as a villain for just existing." Joy leaned back, arms folded now. "Then maybe don't paint everyone who questions you as your enemy." The audience didn't cheer. They didn't boo. They were too transfixed, too stunned. Meghan opened her mouth to respond, but the words stuck, because deep down, some part of her knew that what Joy was saying wasn't cruel. It was accurate. Then Alyssa Farah Griffin finally spoke. "Meghan, you say you're here for women, but sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can do is face what's being said about her, even when it's painful. Especially when it's painful." Sunny Hostin nodded, softly adding, "We all face criticism. It's part of the platform we choose. And as women of color, the scrutiny is different, harsher, but that doesn't mean it's all invalid." Meghan's face dropped. That solidarity, that nuance, it felt like betrayal, or maybe it felt like honesty, and honesty, when it doesn't echo your version of the truth, can feel like betrayal to the show's producers whispered again. "This isn't an interview anymore. It's a reckoning," because that's what this had become. Not a Q&A, not a PR moment, a reckoning. Meghan's voice cracked again. "You think I'm hiding, that I'm avoiding, but I'm surviving. I've done nothing but survive, under microscopes, under headlines, under hate. Joy's eyes narrowed. You've also built an empire while surviving. Book deals, media deals, multi-million-dollar content. Don't act like you've just been suffering in silence. The truth landed like a stone on glass dot because it forced Meghan and everyone watching to hold two truths at once. Yes, she had suffered, but yes, she had profited too. Now Meghan stood, not storming off, not theatrically, just standing. Like a woman who realized she was drowning and needed to breathe. I think I've said what I needed to say. Joy tilted her head. Have you, or just what you rehearsed? Meghan didn't answer, because that line, that single sentence, peeled everything away. The persona, the prep, the platform. What was left was silence. Whoopi stepped in quickly. We need a break. We'll be right back, but the cameras didn't cut fast enough. They caught Meghan pausing. Just for a second, looking not angry, not defiant, but lost, as if she had finally heard herself from the outside and didn't like what echoed back. Silence blanketed the studio like ash. The lights still burned, the cameras still rolled, but something had shifted. Meghan Markle stood there, not as royalty, not as an icon, just as a woman, fragile, fractured, exposed. The air was heavy with truth, the kind that stings, the kind that leaves marks. And for the first time in her carefully orchestrated public life, Meghan wasn't in control. She wasn't reading from a script. She wasn't winning the room. She was enduring it. Joy Behar didn't gloat. That wasn't her style. She didn't smirk or revel in the moment, because for all her sharpness, she wasn't aiming to destroy, she was aiming to reveal. And what had been revealed was something even Meghan hadn't planned on showing, her real self. Unfiltered, unprepared, unprotected. Let's not pretend this. Hasn't been hard, Whoopi finally said, her voice cutting through the tension like warm smoke. But sometimes the hardest conversations are the most important ones. Meghan lowered herself back into the chair. The woman who had stood up moments ago, defensive, defiant, was now gone. In her place was someone raw, quiet, reckoning. I didn't come here for this, she said. Her voice wasn't weak, just honest. I came here to talk about my work, to share my truth, not to be dragged across hot coals. Joy nodded slowly. Sometimes your truth isn't the only truth in the room, Meghan. The audience didn't move. Even the coughs and shuffles had stopped. Everyone was waiting, not for the next soundbite, for the next truth. Meghan took a breath, a big one, like she hadn't breathed fully since the moment the interview started. I've been trying to hold it together, she said, eyes glistening. For years, I'm not perfect. I never claimed to be. But everything I say, everything I do, it gets spun, weaponized. Joy didn't interrupt, for once, because now, finally Meghan was speaking, from somewhere deeper, not the PR version, the human version. But you have a platform, Joy said gently, and platforms come with mirrors. You can either look into them or hide behind them. Meghan nodded slowly, her defenses visibly falling apart at the seams. I don't want to hide anymore, she whispered, but I don't want to be crucified either. Joy's voice softened, but stayed firm. You want the power. You have to take the punches. That's how this works. There was no malice in her tone now, only reality. The kind too many public figures only meet. When it's already too late, I've made mistakes, Meghan said finally. It hung there naked. Make it real. I've hurt people unintentionally, and I've focused so much on defending myself, that I forgot to listen. Sunny Hostin leaned in. That's all we ever really want. Accountability, not perfection. Joy nodded. That's the first honest thing you've said today. The air began to shift. Again, not back to comfort, but to something closer to truth, something closer to healing. She felt it too, because for the first time in this entire interview, the audience wasn't watching a public figure squirm. They were watching a woman start to shed her armor and realize that maybe, just maybe, she didn't need it anymore. I've been trying to be who people want me to be, Meghan said quietly. Royal rebel, role model. I don't even know who I am under all that. Joy's reply was soft but direct. Then that's where you start. Not with a new initiative, not with a documentary with you. The producers gave the wrap signal. The credits were about to roll, but no one moved. No one breathed. Not yet. because they all knew they had just witnessed something rare, something real, a reckoning, and maybe a beginning. Meghan looked around the table, then into the audience, then directly into the camera. Tears still rimmed her eyes, but now there was clarity. "I'm not walking away this time," she said. "Not from the questions, not from the criticism, not from who I really am." And then silence. Not awkward, not tense, just full dot of weight, of meaning, of truth. Because the woman who had come in trying to defend a brand left ready to discover a self